Chapter 24. I plotted Iris's journey in my diary over the following weeks and downloaded photos of some of the places she had flown across. One was the bizarre Rik-Tak structure in Mauritania, a pattern of huge circles in the desert that NASA scientists could see from space. She flew across towns with strange names such as Ksar El Burqa and Boti Limit. There were photos of whole villages gradually being swallowed up by huge sand dunes and photos of camel trains heading into pale desert dawns. Iris's flight took her south and west into Senegal and onto the Gambia. Her long migration came to an end along the banks of the River Gambia, not far from its opening to the sea. I looked at photos of the area. Dense green mangrove swamps and palms came down to the water's edge. Crocodiles slept on domed mud banks at low tide. Fishermen mended nets alongside brightly painted boats. 23rd of September, 8 o'clock, mangrove swamp, the Gambia. Speed, 0 kilometers an hour. Total distance, 6,121.23 kilometers. It was so different from the lochs and mountains of Scotland, and it had only taken her 39 days to travel all the way. Hamish said some ospreys they had tracked made the flight in much less time. Each day after that, Iris's signals came from the same area. Her flight pattern made zigzags across a small river inlet where she fished, to roost trees in the riverbanks. She seemed settled, and I didn't check her position so often. I would have to wait until March before she started her migration north to Scotland again. I sat down at the computer in my bedroom to check on her position. I hadn't logged on for a couple of days. I turned on the computer, ready to tap in Iris's code. A stone pinged against my bedroom window. I opened the window to see Rob and Ewan in the yard below on their bikes. "Are you coming, Callum? We're going up to the top trails." I looked up at the hills. The trees blazed red and gold in the October sunshine. It was a perfect day. "Coming!" I yelled. Iris would have to wait. I logged off and grabbed my fleece. Rob was wearing a bright new helmet, black with silver stripes. "It's a present from my mum," said Rob. "She got called in by Trollface. I thought I was in trouble, but Trollface just wanted to tell her how well I'm doing. An enthusiastic approach to geography," she said. "Can't think why," said Ewan with a grin. We headed out around the back of the farm. Even Rob had to push his bike up the hill. We pushed and pulled our bikes up the rutted dry stream beds and sheep tracks. When we reached the top, we flopped down in the heather. "It's still there then," said Ewan. He was looking across to the Osprey Eyrie on the island. There had been some stormy nights since the Ospreys left. "Dad and Hamish went up and fixed it to the top," I said. "Why do you reckon they migrate?" said Rob. "I mean, why bother? Why not stay here?" "Too cold in the winter, probably," I said. "So why not stay in Africa?" said Rob, "where it's hot and there's always fish." I shrugged my shoulders. "Maybe their nests are safer here. I mean, it's not as if we've got monkeys or snakes or things to eat the eggs or young birds." "Some people steal them," said Ewan. "Bunch of weirdos," I said. "That's what Hamish calls them." "Come on," said Rob. We followed him along the top trail across the ridge of the hill. It was smooth riding, with a few gullies to whiz down and up the other side. The sky was summer sky blue, reflected in the loch below. "Hey, down here," said Rob. He turned his bike down a steep track through the pine forest. "Slalom practice." We followed Rob's trail in and out of the trees. The branches were so low I had to duck right down not to be knocked off. We shot out of the dark pine trees into an open bit of forest Dad had cleared and replanted with native trees. We whizzed past the young saplings fenced off from deer and down into the woods of oak and wild cherry that lined the loch. Rob skidded to a stop in a ring of white boulders. I hadn't realised we'd come so near to the treehouse. It was only yards away. "What is this place?" said Rob. "We've never been here before." Ewan was off his bike and walking around the circle of stones. "It looks like they were placed here," he said. "Let's go," I said. "We've only just got here," said Rob. He scrambled up on the top of one boulder. A shaft of sunlight broke through on his face. "Ah, perfect," he said. He lay back against the stone and closed his eyes. If he looked up now, he would see the treehouse right above him. I didn't want to tell them about it. Not yet. I couldn't face going back up there. I pushed my bike down towards the track by the lock and waited. "What's up with you, Cal?" shouted Ewan. "I'm starving," I said. "Let's see if Mum will give us some food." Rob jumped down to join us and we cycled slowly along the track. Autumn leaves, blood red, floated on the dark waters of the loch and clogged together around the edges of the shore. "Who's that?" said Ewan. A figure in blue shirt and jeans stood at the far end of the loch. "That's Hamish," I said. "The wildlife officer I was telling you about." I pushed my way in front of Rob and cycled ahead of the others. "Hi, Hamish," I said. Rob and Ewan pulled up beside us on their bikes. "This is Rob," I said, "and Ewan." Hamish nodded at them, but he didn't have his usual cheery smile. "Doesn't look good, does it?" he said. "What?" I didn't know what he was talking about. "Iris," he said. "Haven't you noticed?" "Well, I haven't checked on her for a day or two," I said. Hamish shook his head. "She's not moved position for 3 days. Her signal is coming from a mangrove swamp. She hasn't made any flights to fish or find new roost sites. It doesn't look good." I kicked the ground. "I should have checked on her," I said. "It's not like you can do anything," said Rob. "I made a promise," I said. "I promised Iona I would look after Iris." "Rob's right," said Hamish. He put his hand on my shoulder. "There's nothing you can do. Ospreys face loads of dangers. It's only now we're tracking them we know how many survived the long migration." I shook off Hamish. "I made a promise," I said. "Callum," said Hamish. "I'll find a way," I yelled. I pushed off down the rutted track along the loch, but all I could see ahead of me was a knotted maze of waterways reaching into the dense green mangrove swamp.